I kissed someone else the same night my girlfriend told me she loved me for the first time, and I have never told anyone that until right now. I've been carrying this for 2 years. 2 years of waking up and being the first thing I think about in the morning. Not her face, not her laugh, not the way she looked when she said those words. My own reflection. The version of me that nodded, set it back, and then drove across town. To be with someone who had no idea I was supposed to be happy. I need you to understand something before you decide what kind of person I am. I need you to sit with me for a few minutes because I am not going to give you the easy version of this story. I am not going to make myself the villain you want me to be, not because I do not deserve that. But because if I do that, then I will have gone through all of this and learned absolutely nothing. And I think you deserve the truth more than you deserve something comfortable. So let me go back. Not to the night it happened. Let me go back much further. To the version of me that existed before her. I grew up in a house where love was transactional. Not in a dramatic movie kind of way. Nobody screamed, nobody left, nobody had an affair that destroyed the family. It was quieter than that. It was a house where you did not get held when you were scared. Where achieving something was met with a nod rather than a hug. Where emotional need was treated as weakness and weakness was treated as inconvenience. I did not have a word for what I was missing as a child. I just knew I was always hungry for something. That the dinner table never provided. I spent my entire adolescence learning how to make myself small enough not to need anything from anyone. I got good at it. Frighteningly good. I became the kind of person who seemed independent and strong. And everyone around me mistook that performance for wholeness. I mistook it for wholeness. I genuinely believed that I had figured out something most people had not, that needing people was optional. That I could choose to be fine, and that choosing was enough. Then I met her, and the whole architecture of that lie started to crack. She was warm in a way I had never encountered up close before. Not warm like sunlight, but warm like a fire inside a house during a storm. The kind of warmth that makes you suddenly aware of how cold you have been. I fell for her completely. I did not just fall in love with her as a person. I fell in love with what she made me feel like I could be. Safe. Seen. Human in a way that did not feel embarrassing. For the first 8 months it was everything. I let myself need her. Which was terrifying, and she came through. She always came through. And then slowly, so slowly that I almost did not notice it, she stopped. It was not dramatic. She did not become cruel. She did not leave. She stayed, and that is somehow what made it so devastating. She was physically present in my life every single day while becoming emotionally absent in a way I could not articulate or prove. Our conversation stopped going anywhere real. When I would share something that mattered, she would look at her phone, or change the subject or give me this smile that said she was present in her body, but nowhere near me, in any way that counted. I started to feel like a roommate she was politely tolerating. I started to feel like the child I used to be, reaching for something warm and finding only air. I told myself I was being too sensitive. That was the story I had been trained to tell about myself my entire life. I told myself I was asking for too much. I told myself she was tired or stressed or going through something she would eventually talk to me about. I waited. I rationalized. I shrunk myself back down into the shape. I had spent years trying to escape. And then I met someone who listened. Nothing about the other person was extraordinary. She was not more beautiful, not more interesting, not more anything. That could justify what happened. But she asked me questions, and then waited for the answers. She laughed at the things I said and then referenced them later, proving she had actually heard me. She looked at me across a table and made me feel like I existed in a way I had stopped feeling. With the person I was supposed to love. The first time, nothing physical happened. We just talked for 4 hours and I drove home feeling more wrecked than I had ever felt after any argument. Because I realized I had just experienced in one evening what I had been starving for inside my actual relationship. That is when I should have ended things. That is when I should have sat across from my girlfriend and said something true. But I did not, because saying something true would have required me to admit that I was drowning. And I had spent a lifetime telling myself that drowning people were just people who were not trying hard enough to swim. The physical part came later, once. And I will not use the word mistake because that word implies accident. And it was not an accident. It was a choice, made by a broken person who did not yet understand. That being broken does not excuse the damage you do with your sharp edges. When she told me she loved me that night, I had already been across town. I had already done the thing. I stood there and let those words land on me, and I said them back, and I meant them, which is the part that has haunted me more than anything else. I loved her. I genuinely loved her. And I still did what I did, which told me something about myself I was not ready to face. I ended the other situation immediately. I never told her what had happened. I spent the next year trying to be the partner she deserved, which in retrospect was its own form of dishonesty. A performance of atonement she never consented to being a part of. We broke up 7 months later. Not because of what I had done. Because she finally told me the truth she had been holding the entire time we were together. She told me she had never been in love with me, not really, that she cared about me deeply, but had been staying because she did not know how to leave. That the emotional distance I had been slowly suffocating inside of was not neglect. It was her trying to figure out how to do the right thing by me without destroying me. She had been protecting me in the only way she knew how, and I had interpreted that protection as abandonment, and I had used that interpretation to make a choice that I cannot unmake. I did not cheat because I stopped loving her. I did not cheat because someone else was better. I cheated because I was a person who had never learned how to say I am hurting and I need more. And instead of learning that skill in the relationship where it mattered most, I outsourced the conversation entirely. I found a workaround for vulnerability. And the cost of that workaround was the only relationship I had ever truly let myself be inside of. Here is the part I want you to sit with, not the cheating. The cheating is the surface. What is underneath it is the fact that both of us were suffering in silence. Inside the same relationship, orbiting each other's unspoken truths, and neither of us ever just said the real thing out loud. She was trying to find a gentle exit. I was trying to find a way to feel less alone. We were both in pain. We were both making choices from that pain. The difference is that my choice crossed a line, that hers did not. I am not asking you to forgive me. I have not fully forgiven myself, and I am not sure that is a destination I am actually supposed to reach. What I am asking is that you think about the last time you were in pain inside a relationship and you chose a workaround instead of a conversation. Think about what that cost you. Think about what it cost the other person. Because the tragedy of my story is not that I cheated. The tragedy is that the truth was always available to me. I just did not trust myself enough to speak it, and I did not trust her enough to survive it. And in choosing silence over honesty, I destroyed the one thing that silence was supposed to protect.